Believe it or not, there are a lot of logistics that go into this show. I got to start the camera, I got to start the microphone, I got to start my drinking. Most important part of it. Hey everybody, I'm Jim. I'm going to talk about Season 3, Episode 3 of Falling Skies. It's called Badlands. I don't know what the Badlands are in this show. I assume this episode is named that because of the area that they were fighting in. I think that's the Badlands, the outskirts of Charleston, the area that they're trying to monitor for alien activity. But that's just a guess. So, first thing I want to talk about is the first thing that happens in the episode. Crazy Lee. Crazy Lee gets the rebar through her crazy head. Oh, that's a crazy injury. That is a crazy injury. I do not like seeing that one bit. I am notoriously unfazed by movies like The Saw. The Saw? Movies like Saw. Hostel. Any of those kind of torture porn movies. It doesn't bother me. But when you throw an injury like this into a drama, it's a lot different because I'm not ready for it. I don't see it coming. In Hostel, I know what I'm getting into. In Falling Skies, a show on TNT, basic cable, wow, that's rough. So that one got to me. I saw that and it was ooh, and especially not only did they show the rebar at the bottom, but when he moved aside the hair and the rebar had come through the top of her head, oh, that was even worse. That was way worse. So that got to me. So horrific injury. Why do you think Matt cares so much? As far as I know, up to this point, they have basically had no interaction whatsoever. I went back and I watched a couple of episodes from the end of season 2. Matt wasn't even involved in military operations at that point. His father wouldn't let him be. And Crazy Lee was. Crazy Lee is part of, Pope's hooligan gang there. So why does he care? I didn't feel like they set this up at all. And maybe they tried to set it up by him just being on the scene when this happened. Him being so young. They kind of play him as the innocent one of the group. I mean, being so young. But I didn't feel like him just being there personally and maybe this being the first up-close death that he's witnessed was really a good enough excuse for them to play up this connection that he had with her. There was nothing to pay off there because there was nothing set up, in my opinion. However, I did like Pope's reaction quite a bit because, unlike Matt, he has had a deep relationship with this girl for at least 2 years that we know of because they were together at the very beginning when the aliens attacked, and when they met up with the second mass, they were already part of the group. So I felt like Pope's reaction was a lot stronger and meant a lot more, especially if, earlier in the episode, or in last season, they're like, oh, you're the guy who's supposed to be all tough and everything. And so, it's always effective to see the tough guy, guy's weak points. And in this case, that's Crazy Lee. He had a soft spot for her. And it wasn't a romantic thing at all. I felt like he respected her, and they were just good friends, So that was pretty sad to see her die just because of Pope's reaction. The next thing I want to talk about that happened around the same time, and just talk about it briefly because I don't know where it's going, but something's happening there, is Ben and, what's her name? I don't know, the girl he was playing the riddle game with. There's obviously something there. I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll see as it unfolds. I'd like to hear predictions on it, though. I mean, it's pretty safe to say that they're going to be romantically linked, right? I mean, they're already kind of flirting around. So, is that interesting by itself? No. They're going to need another twist. What is that twist going to be? Let's move to the talking baby and Crazy Ann. Crazy Ann. We got Crazy Lee, we got Crazy Ann. A lot of crazy people in this. My question is, are we supposed to think she's crazy? Are we supposed to not believe what we're being shown about this baby and assume that she's crazy? Because I don't. I do not think she's crazy. I think this baby legitimately has something weird about it. And I don't know that it's sinister. It's just something weird. So at the end of this episode, the baby smiles. Like when the ships go overhead and they're in the kind of town square meeting, ships go over and the baby smiles up at them. Like she is somehow in cahoots with the aliens, or enjoys the fact that the aliens have started slaughtering the humans. That's really weird. I don't understand that. Now, this might go back to the idea that all the military leaders have that there's something not right about the Volm. Like they are somehow hatching a master plan to eradicate the humans. Why would that baby be so pleased seeing the aliens if that were not the case? I'm starting to lean that way. I think the Volm may not be what they pretend to be, and I think Weaver has the right idea, and maybe Tom, being such a good guy, is being fooled, letting himself be fooled. My other question with this, the other reason I think the baby is part alien is because I wonder if that technology that she's been using to get the harnesses off the kids hasn't somehow infected her with something that then infected the baby before it was born. Because if you notice, I think last episode they said that she was the only one who had been taught how to use that. And maybe that's because there's some sort of, not parasitic, maybe more symbiotic relationship with that technology and the person who uses it. And it kind of becomes a part of them. I don't know. That's just a guess, but it seems fishy. Because somehow this baby is an alien. And if Tom's, unless she's been taken up to the mothership and probed in the ass, I don't see how that could be possible, you know? We'll see. So there's this, in the episode, Lourdes goes to Tom and tells her, hey, look, I think your girl's crazy. Going through postpartum depression or maybe psychotic, whatever. And that kind of leads Tom down the path that he went on in this episode and the approach that he took towards Anne and her thinking that the baby is talking to her. Do you think, without Lourdes saying anything, that Tom approaches this differently? If Anne had gone to her, like I suggested last episode, had just gone to Tom and said, hey, stuff is happening with this baby, why don't we sit here and watch it for a while? Do you think that plays out differently? Do you think maybe he doesn't assume that she's crazy because Lourdes said it? I think so. I think that is probably a bad move on Lourdes' part. She should have told Anne, look, you got this dude who will understand just about anything you tell him and not question it. Why don't you go tell him what you've been seeing? Silly. Silly, Lourdes. You should have handled that better. Let's talk about the human-on-human battle aspect of what went down at the beginning. Because we already talked about the injury, but we find out in the episode that it was the humans attacking the second mass there. Because apparently they thought, if we're to believe what Tom surmises and the sniper doesn't even really confirm, if we're to believe that they are assuming alien collaboration and that the second mass and Charleston is working with the aliens to eradicate humans, then yeah, they were doing what they thought was right. Personally, I believe that that's the case. I think the sniper is saying exactly what her agenda is. It sounds pretty realistic, especially the fact that when she is taken into custody and questioned, all she gives is her name and rank. That to me says trained military. I know if I were to get in a situation like that, I'd be talking my ass off because I don't know how to handle it. She's been trained. So she is military of some kind, and I think it's a likely scenario that she is part of a larger military unit underneath the president. Fine. I'm going with that. Not a problem. My big problem, though, during this battle is why they have to make battles on television so unrealistic. So there's a moment when Tom points the bazooka at the sniper post. And the sniper is looking right at him, puts her finger on the trigger, actually takes the shot before he fires that bazooka. Takes the shot. I mean, we hear the shot, we see the flash, takes the shot, and yet Weaver is totally unfazed by it. Either the sniper is a terrible shot, or we're supposed to believe that the shot didn't actually go off even though we saw it. Why did they wait so long? Am I supposed to think, okay, well, they've waited so long at this point now that they're not possibly going to stop it? Is that supposed to be dramatic? I don't get it. I don't get it. As soon as I see a finger go on the trigger of a sniper rifle, that gun should fire, in my opinion. And I'm assuming that gun has fired. It just really annoys me that this is so unrealistic. Also, the idea that a rocket could be fired into a window where you're sitting, into a room where you're sitting, and you would be okay. And not just okay, but not even scratched, not even concussed, nothing. I mean, she's out for a little bit. That's it. No, she'd be dead. She'd probably be splattered in a lot of pieces. I hate that stuff. I hate it. But whatever, it's TNT. So the question then, if we believe her story, is the question that Tom raised in this episode: how are they going to get word to the real president that they are the good guys and that they are not working with the aliens? And even if they can get word to him, is the president going to believe him? Probably the only guy they could send that would be trustworthy enough to actually deliver this message and convince the president and convince a whole bunch of people around the president that what he's saying is true is Tom. And we've already seen Tom not take the presidency seriously as far as keeping himself protected. I mean, he doesn't care about his own life, even though for a while he didn't have a vice president. Now he does. But he is harder to replace than pretty much anybody in that city, in that town of Charleston. So he doesn't seem to care about that. So why not? Why not have him go out, right? He doesn't care. It's got to be him, because he's probably the only one who can convince anybody that that's true. My suggestion would probably be to send the sniper back out, release her, and say, hey, we're the good guys. Go on your way and tell some people about it. But then they run the risk of her using the intel that she's gotten just by being in the city to kind of bring everybody back and destroy the town. So that's not a good option. But I don't know what is a good option. I'm actually really interested to see how this portion of the plot plays out. The other portion of the plot that I'd like to see play out and really interests me is Hal being the mole. I don't buy it. I don't buy it for a second. They're trying really hard to convince us, and they're presenting no evidence. They are just having the characters state that I'm the mole. That doesn't do anything to convince me as a viewer, because he's under the control of the aliens. Like I said last time, I don't think that they would make him both obviously under the control of the aliens and also have a mysterious mole last episode. That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. So I'm betting next episode we find out that he's not the mole, but he will have told someone that he is the mole, probably his father. And then we'll have to deal with the fallout and the drama of that. Mark my words. I can almost guarantee that's going to happen. I'm pretty much done talking about this episode. I think every room in this city has a giant painting on the wall. Massive, massive paintings on every single wall. And they're beautiful. They're awesome. And I'm sure one of the first things you'd do if you were in a town like Charleston and everything had been destroyed, you'd go rummaging through it and find cool stuff to hang on the walls. Why not? Why not? The only problem is you're telling me they can find all these massive paintings, but they can't find any booze. I mean, they are treating booze like it is platinum, gold-pressed latinum. They bring in this, Lourdes brings in this tiny bottle of wine over to Anne. She's like, oh, must have cost you a lot to get that or whatever. And last episode, there was the drink of whiskey that was seemed to be prized and in very low supply. Really? Really? Where did all the booze go? Because within a mile of my house, there are at least 5 liquor stores. At least. You're telling me that when the aliens attacked and everybody was running and screaming and getting killed, everyone took the booze? Not buying it. The last thing I want to talk about is kind of the speech and Liberty Tree. I actually like Liberty Tree a lot. I like the idea. I think it's a cool piece of art as well. I do have one problem with it, and I think they're going to have a problem with it when the wind starts blowing. It blows all that shit right off of there. There goes your monument to the people who have died preserving your freedom. So much for that. When I first saw it, I thought, oh, okay, they're going to weld the leaves on there, and it's going to start looking really cool as the season goes on. That would have been awesome. No, the wind. The other thing about this speech is I'm really glad he went off script because the direction he was going was not a good one. He was going to pretend that everything was okay and that they were making progress, when in fact you could look around and see that's not what's happening. They are hunkered down, terrified of an alien attack. That does not say progress, despite Liberty Tree having been built. So I'm really glad he went off the script, and that's what Tom is good at. You know, speaking from the heart, putting people at ease, and really motivating. And that's why he's the president. The thing about the speech, though, is I'm totally not used to hearing these swelling scores and the stuff that happened when Pope was watching Crazy Lee die. There's like these really emotional scores coming up, and after watching stuff like Mad Men and Breaking Bad, that's starting to not really do it for me anymore. It doesn't feel honest. It feels like I'm being tricked. I don't need to have an emotion coerced out of me by music. And actually during that scene, hearing that music, I was looking at the crowd and thinking, they're not hearing this music. Is this affecting them in the same way it's affecting me? Probably not. And so it actually made the speech less powerful in a weird way. I don't know. Do you guys have that problem? Do those swelling scores bother you? Maybe it's just TV, because in movies, I guess they're okay. Movies, I guess, are more concentrated, and you really need to get that punch of emotion because you only have an hour and a half period to tell your entire story. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so alien attack. I am totally stoked for next episode. I want to see what happens with Hal. I want to see what happens with the alien attack. I want to see what happens with, I don't know, this idea that there's a president out there. That's going to be awesome. I can't wait. I'm excited. This show, despite all of the things that I think are wrong with it or could be improved with it, it's got something there at the core that I really enjoy. And that's all I want to say about it, really. I'm looking for you guys' feedback. I've got one email this week that I want to read. If I can open up my email here, because I closed it out like a dumbass. But that's all the feedback I got. Just one email. I want to hear more from you guys. That will make this show better because it will give me more to think about and therefore you more to think about. Michael R. writes in, says, what do you think about Pope as the mole? He says he has access to new alien weapons. He was not in on the deception when they attacked the power plant. He's always butting heads with Tom and the other leaders, and he even mentioned to his berserker buddy that he has a plan. Seems like the most obvious choice at the moment. Fair enough. I don't like obvious choices. I like there to be a twist when they set up a mystery, you know? I don't want it to be Hal because it was so freaking obvious. I don't want it to be Pope really because it's kind of obvious. He, like you said, he's always butting heads with the leaders. That said, I don't think Pope is the kind of guy who would work with the aliens willingly. So if he is the mole, he's probably being coerced somehow, either forcefully or blackmailed somehow, something. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not sure who the mole is at this point. I just know it's not Hal. I know it's not Hal. Don't pretend. Michael R. goes on to say, I completely agree with you about the dismantling of the nuclear power plant. As someone who works in a power plant, not nuclear but similar, I can tell you I would take literally many hours to shut down a plant like that safely. But of course, that's not conducive to television. Right on, Michael. He also says, last point, I had the exact same thoughts about that tunnel and the extremely dangerous platform they showed overlooking the alien weapon. That's a typical dramatic shot, but makes no sense in practical terms, but I'm always picky about those things. Me too. You and me both. That's about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I don't know what to do with these videos. If you have any suggestions for like what could make these videos better, other than me just talking into a camera, that seems kind of boring to me. And if that's the case, why don't I just do them in audio form, you know? But what video stuff would you guys like to see? Like scenes from the episode while I'm talking about those scenes? Would that be cool? That would take a lot of editing, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it if you're okay with it. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening, and I will see you next time.